Okay, so we're looking at abstract data types and data structures. This time we're looking at graphs. So here is an undirected graph. Next to it we have an undirected but weighted graph, so we've introduced these numbers here. Below we have a directed graph, so we've replaced these lines with directional arrows. And here we have a combination of everything, which is a directed and weighted graph. So we have the directional arrows, and we also have these values on the lines. Now, if we look at the terminology we can use to describe these graphs, we're looking at nodes or vertexes. We have edges or arcs, and we have weights, also referred to in certain cases as costs. So if we take a look at an undirected, unweighted graph, we can represent this abstract data type or data structure as a dictionary in Python. So remember, these are abstract. Okay, they do not exist in this structure inside a computer. We have to build them on more concrete data structures like arrays, tuples, or in this case, a dictionary. Now, we can derive from this graph an adjacency matrix. This essentially tells us what is connected to what. So which of these vertexes is connected to which other vertex via an edge. So if we look at this matrix, if we look at this vertex up here, so 0 is not connected to itself. It's not connected to 1, but it is connected to 2. So we can see that connection along that edge there. It's also connected to 4, and it's connected to 5. So this matrix essentially tells us 1 if there is a connection between two vertexes, and 0 if there's no connection. Now this is an adjacency list. Now don't let these arrows confuse you. They're essentially saying that 0 is connected to 2, 0 is also connected to 4, and 0 is connected to 5. It's not saying that we essentially traverse this as 0, 2, 4, then 5. So in this case, if we look at 1, it's connected to 4, and it's also connected to 5. I think this is underlined by, if we look at number 4 down here, it's connected to 0, to 1, to 2, and to 5. Okay, so moving on to a weighted graph. So here we have a weighted graph. We've added in these costs or weights along the edges. This tells us something about the relationship between two vertexes. So between 0 and 5 there's a cost or a weight of 2. Between 5 and 1 there's a cost or a weight of 4. Now here we have added in the weights into this dictionary. So we've essentially got a dictionary of dictionaries. So in this case, if we look at this value, or this vertex rather, 0, it's connected to 2, and then the cost is encoded here. Okay, so it's connected to 4 with a cost of 3 and 5 with a cost of 2. Here's the adjacency matrix. Now, because we've got essentially costs in here, or weights, we can also refer to this as a distance matrix. The distance in inverted commas between 5 and 1 is 4. So if we go to 5 and we look at its connection to 1, so 5 down here and across to column 1, we can see that we've got a weight here of 4. The infinities come in because there is no amount of cost. It would take an infinite amount of cost, i.e. not possible, to get from 0 to 1, because there simply isn't a direct connection between 0 and 1. Now if we look at the adjacency list, simply same structure, but we've added in via after a comma the actual weight between those two nodes. So between 0 and 4 there is a cost of 3. Okay, and there is that written out. This is essentially the same as this. Okay, so here we have a directed graph. Here is that being represented in code in Python. So again, using a dictionary here, we can see that once we add in the directions, you'll see that, for instance, if 0 is connected to 5 in one direction, 5 will appear in 0. If 5 is connected bidirectionally to another vertex, then they will appear in each other's dictionary. So 5, 1 appears in there, and if we look at 1, 5 appears in there. So that gives us the fact that there is a connection from 1 to 5, and then down here 5 to 1. Here's the adjacency matrix, same principle. If you see a 1, there is a connection between those two vertexes. And here's the adjacency list. Again, this just reflects this. Okay, so here it is written out. And lastly, we combine both the directed and the weighted nature of the graph. So here we have, again, a dictionary of dictionaries. Here we have the adjacency or distance matrix. And here we have the adjacency list. So again, 3 is connected to 2 and 2 to 3. So this is bidirectional. So if we look under 3, we should find 2 with a cost of 8. And if we look under 2, we should find 3 also with a cost of 8. Okay, so here it is written out. Now, what I've not mentioned so far is, well, we've got the weights, the costs, the nodes or vertexes, and the edges. There's also the notion that within a graph you could have a loop, so where a node is essentially connected to itself. You can also have cycles, so we could be moving between 2, 4 and 0, then 2, 4, 0. In fact, there are multiple cycles that could exist within this particular graph. Okay, so why would we have loops and cycles, and what's their implication? Well, a loop is kind of like if we're using this graph to represent something like a social network, it could be liking your own post. So there we have a return back to the same vertex. It could be a web page that has a link to itself, or it could be a state machine where an action doesn't actually change the state of the machine. So cycles, well, cycles are equally desirable and undesirable. If we're trying to traverse this graph, we could end up in a loop, and so we end up stuck, not able to traverse this graph. But we could also use it to look at obtaining information such as small groups of friends within. So this is a kind of a network within the larger network. So it could be traffic light sequences. So red, amber, green, amber, red going round in a loop. And it could be feedback loops in biological systems. So these cycles are not a bug, they're also a feature in the sense that it can give us, or we can extract information about those relationships. So here's an example of a graph. Now all of these graphs are considered abstractions in that we are stripping away a large amount of information to leave us with what we're essentially interested in. So in this case we've got train stations, we've got the connections, the rail between those train stations. So for instance, Malden isn't connected directly to Blackshall, you have to go through Fearing. Not only that, but we've also put in the weights. In this case, this is the distance in miles between these stations. But if you look at the edges, they're not representative of the overall value of the weight. So this edge here is much longer than this edge, despite the fact that it's a smaller value here. So these are considered abstractions in the same way something like a tube map is an abstraction. It doesn't really reflect the actual on-the-ground structure of the underground. It's an abstraction. We've stripped away the unnecessary information to leave us with what we're interested in. And the same is true here. So what are we actually using these graphs for? So we can use these graphs in what we call a graph database. And we can look at these nodes, these vertexes, in terms of entities, things like bank accounts, institutions, railway stations, individuals on a social network. So we can use these graphs, or rather the databases of these graphs, for fraud detection, for social networks. So this could be who's liked each other, who is friends with each other. You could look at emerging properties or behaviours, looking at how often individuals like each other's posts, how often they message. You could also use it for something like recommendation engines. If you have a user, let's say on Netflix, that is liking or interacting or has a long retention time, watching for long periods of time on a particular movie or TV show, we could strengthen that weight between the individual and what they're watching. We could then start to strengthen other connections between similar programs. So we could use it to recommend. And it's used for things like drug and gene interactions. Now, because all the examples I've shown you so far are quite small in scale, these graphs can have millions, if not billions, of these vertexes with multiple edges between all of them. So we are massively scaling up the size of these graphs. Again, just to underline the fact that these graphs don't exist as they are pictured here within these databases. They are essentially dictionaries or tuples or arrays. Now, these graph processing frameworks come into play when we have such large versions of these graphs that it's essentially impossible to manipulate, to actually interact with these graphs on just one machine. So we might end up using data centers that are linked together over vast distances. Essentially, we are spreading the computation of working through these graphs and looking at the relationships and connections between these nodes across groups of computers to extract meaning and insight, or to run algorithms on these graphs, on these structures.